I feel like I should precede our next speaker with, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. And I'm looking at my notes here. It says our next speaker is no stranger to many of you. I'd like to correct that. I don't think our next speaker is a stranger to any of us. It's my pleasure to introduce Don McCormack as our next speaker. Don is the Executive Director for both the Naval Surface Warfare Center and the Naval Undersea Warfare Center. He's a fellow UMass alum with a degree in electrical engineering from UMass Dartmouth right up the road. Earlier in his career, Don served in a number of roles within NAVC, including stints as Director of Undersea Warfare Command and Control Systems Product Area, Executive Director of Newark Newport Division, and Director of Weapons Systems. Prior to being named Executive Director in March 2014, Don held positions of Technical Director for Newark for 10 years with additional duties as Acting Technical Director for NSWC for 2 of those 10 years. In his current position, Don is responsible for leading more than 23,000 civilian scientists, engineers, and technicians and support personnel within 10 divisions located across the country to perform research, development, test, and evaluation for the future Navy, to provide in-service engineering, logistics support for the operational fleet. Please join me in welcoming Don McCormack.
All right, well, if you were all waiting for me, you really set your expectations low. But again, good morning, because it's 11:55, so I can say good morning. And thanks, Molly, for the invite. Thank you to the SENEDIA membership for inviting me here to talk to you today. I think if you walk away with anything today, it's going to be about partnerships and collaboration, right? No one organization can do it all alone. It's very much what I'm all about, and if we're not meeting those expectations, you need to come see me and explain to me why we're not, and we'll try to address it. So last year I used this visual to represent the need for partnership and collaboration, communication, collaboration between the government, industry, and academia. Partners is absolutely critical. The age of peer competition is back. We need to first identify, adopt, and deploy new technology faster than our competitors. I think one thing is clear, right? The pace of technology change is driving the direction we see from our senior leadership in Congress, and I think you heard some of that at the beginning of the conference. The message to go faster, adopt technology, and get it in the hands of the fleet as soon as possible is paramount. The current National Defense Strategy, and I hope you've all read it, is how new commercial technology will change society and ultimately the character of war, because many of the technology developments will come from the commercial sector, not by DoD anymore. The most advanced technology is available to anyone, both state and non-state actors, which risks eroding the conventional overmatch our nation has enjoyed for the last decade. Is that mine? All right. So that was a quick half hour. I'm good. I'll be done. Thanks. Comments? National Defense Strategy also discussed the need for our forces to be prepared to confront technology surprises on the battlefield, such as hypersonics, autonomous systems, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence. The Defense Strategy also states that we must build a more lethal force. Advanced autonomous systems are fundamental to this effort. So DoD continues to invest in the military applications of autonomy, and many of you are supporting us on that. Artificial intelligence and machine learning include commercial breakthroughs to gain military advantages. I think a key question remains is how do we acquire and deploy these systems while maintaining core American values? Our adversaries may not operate with similar values, so how do we ensure our machine learning efforts are broad enough to address their asymmetrical approach? If we value life and they do not value life, and our systems are based on that, we may be in trouble on the battlefield. So this is where you guys can help us. The military-industrial base must work with the commercial sector to adopt their technology and their work in artificial intelligence and other fields for military application. Secondly, we need to be smart about our communications and engagements. We need to get the message out that DoD seeks to deter first and fight as a last resort. Finally, we should be creating a culture where protecting our intellectual property is our highest priority. This is a throwback to the Cold War for many of us. We started that way, things opened up, a lot more discussion in the public. I see things going back the other way now. SecNav Instruction 5239.3C of 2 May of 2016 states we should enforce encryption of email or web server transactions containing controlled, unclassified, or controlled technical information. When in doubt, let's err on the side of overprotecting our data. And make sure we protect our, for official use only, non-distro A information. That's my commercial on what's coming, okay? This controlling of unclassified, controlled information is coming. If you haven't read about it in the paper recently, it is coming. Secretary Gertz is working on some policy. I don't know if he talked about that on Monday or not, but it is going to make collaboration a little harder, so we need to figure our way through that. The option of not doing this is not acceptable either, right? Our competitive advantage is what turns our war fighters to be uncontested in their areas of expertise. There is a sense of urgency as well that I haven't felt since I started my career. Back then, the Soviet Union and the US were locked in the Cold War, or at least at the end of the Cold War. Tensions were high and technology superiority was paramount. When something was needed to be done, a dedicated team was assembled, an aggressive timeline was given. Schedule and capability were the key you worked on until it was finished. There was not a lot of talk about cost. The peace dividend and the US dominance over the last couple of decades have made us slow, low risk. Cost and continuous resolutions have been the norm. Concerns and continuous resolutions have been the norm. The recognition by the recognition by OSD leadership to the importance of undersea warfare in a peer-to-peer competition has changed the urgency, in my opinion. While open systems and architecture and dedicated people provide a method to accelerate tech transfer, I'm concerned that we may not be ready for the pace and the change of advancement. If you've been living through continuous resolutions and suddenly you have a flood of money, which we have gotten in the Navy, we're struggling with getting the money out to you, executing the money on time, and Congress is watching. They've delivered on the money. We need to deliver on the execution as a team. My other concern is the depth of science and technology investment in the US. I asked one of our data scientists at Dahlgren to research US versus China spending on basic research topics. While China is projected to outspend us this year by 150 to 200%, what concerned me more were the topics that dominated their research. China's emphasis on basic science, physics, and materials. The US is based on medical and pharmaceutical fields. As our society ages, industry follows where the money is, right? And that's why we're investing in those areas. So when DoD was leading the cutting edge technology development in our areas, this may have been okay, but today it's a different story. And it's going to have a profound impact on what we do and how fast we can deliver capability to the fleet. The next slide shows some of the many headlines and highlights of the challenges of our current environment. The first headline is based on a recent Vladimir Putin quote: "Whoever leads in AI will rule the world." Obviously, he wants to be that guy. Putin believes that AI is the future, not just for Russia, but for the world. He goes on to discuss the many opportunities and potential threats of AI in the wrong hands. The second headline refers to China's development of large, smart, relatively low-cost unmanned vehicles that will perform a wide range of missions, from surveillance to mine placement and suicide attacks. Kind of sounds like they've read a couple of our UUV and unmanned vehicle master plans over the last, I'll say, I've been here 30 years, so I've seen them. Fortunately, we're starting to see the Navy invest in those areas, and I hope that continues on. In 2017, China released a comprehensive strategy encouraging their industry partners to invest heavily with the goal of becoming a world leader in artificial intelligence by 2030. Former SecDef work called the strategy a Sputnik moment. OSD has done some collaboration and is bringing all the services together to see if we can push a coordinated AI strategy. The third article from Modern Diplomacy suggests AI will represent the next space race. The intensity is only increasing, with Congress recently passing legislation to tighten scrutiny of foreign investments in high-tech companies as well as sensitive technology. Complicating all of this is the use of cryptocurrencies to blockchain technology to hide the identity of those responsible for financing hostile acts. Sorry. The last headline is another cultural change for the U.S. You may have seen that Google will not renew the Maven Pentagon contract that upset some of their employees because AI developed to interpret video images for them can also be used to improve targeting for drone strikes. After a small but vocal number of employees protested, Google backed away from the AI work with the Navy. And we need your help in this. We need your help in figuring out how we can partner with these high-end companies without scaring them off, how we can transfer their technology to the Navy and the military in general while placating their workforce. It's always interesting to me that companies that operate in an open environment like Google, that are protected by the U.S. military, then don't want to turn around and support the U.S. military in their efforts. But that's just my opinion. That's not the U.S. Navy's opinion. This is not a paid political announcement. Okay. Some of you may have seen the story in the news recently also about a Chinese billionaire studying at Duke University who allegedly stole a professor's metamaterials technology and is replicating it in China. Adversaries who want to steal our hard-earned advantage pay very close attention to our science and technology work and investments in cutting-edge technology. So while it's great to announce that we just did something, we need to really take some time and think about the OPSEC rules of the road as we announce what new technologies we have come up with, how we can apply them to military applications. And I think you're going to start seeing more guidance come out of the Navy shortly on this. I know for the Warfare Center folks, Admiral Del Toro, myself, and Admiral Anderson are developing policy right now on how to do that for our 219 investments. There are other emerging fields that will have great impact on the way we design and produce future systems as well. Fields such as synthetic biology, novel applications of quantum entanglement, new methods of material sciences, where we can design the system we want and not be constrained by the material limitations, will drastically change the way we build, test, and design systems in the future. I think they'll also change the way we hire folks within the warfare centers. I think it'll change the way you all do the same things in your organizations. We're going to need a different mix of folks. It's not just mechanical and electrical engineers and computer engineers. We're going to have to mix the sciences a lot more. And then, of course, maybe we won't have to worry about any of those issues. The futurists predict that by 2057, there'll be no more physical wars. Well, it's really hard on the infrastructure and the people, right? So we don't want to do that. We'll just hack each other to death and then call a winner, and then you transfer your bitcoins to the other guy, and done. Kind of like that. You know, my son's 21. I kind of like that approach. Okay. I also recently challenged our senior scientists and technologists across the Warfare Center to figure out a way ahead for our technology investments. We developed what we call the Long-Range Research and Development Plan. It consists of 3 primary areas that really shouldn't surprise any of you, right? Awareness, command and control, and then engagement. These 3 areas are relevant across all of the mission areas across the Warfare Center: surface, undersea, EW, SP missions, you name it. It's kind of in all of those areas. The goal is to identify not only the future technologies that we think we should be investing in, but also the kind of workforce we need in the future. We're collaborating with NRL on this and ONR, looking at did we come up with the right mix based on their deep understanding of the future technologies. And we'd be happy to share that with you and your IRAD staffs as you look at what technologies you're going to be investing in and what kind of people you may need in the future. I think the broader we spread this and the more conversation, the closer we'll get to it being right. And then when we talk about awareness, we're thinking about ubiquitous sensing, state-of-the-art processing, eventually quantum-driven with the application of artificial intelligence to sort and make sense out of all these inputs. And one area where AI and machine learning technology will be leveraged heavily is in the CNO's Task Force Oceans initiative. We're working with SINMOC and ONR to establish a roadmap that focuses the Navy's capability in this area and how it could be better used by operational commanders. And you'll see we've been increasing our engagement with Navy Metrology and Oceanography Commands, and you can hear more about their work with Admiral Ocon and Bill Burnett speeches this afternoon during the NTEX opening ceremonies. Great partnership there, a lot of similarities, and you'll see that as you hear their speeches. So within the Warfare Centers, we're investing to develop and adapt technologies I mentioned before. Like you and your IRAD, we have internal investments. We must make the most of these precious resources. As I said, the bigger industry is not engaged in things that we need, so we'd like to team with you better on your IRADs, and you can come see our 219 investments. That may give you a hint of what we're thinking is the future and allow you to share and collaborate with us. So Vic Ritchie's here somewhere in the audience, and Mary Sylvia somewhere. There she is in the back. So she leads our technology partnership office here at Division Newport, and we have a brochure in the booth that talks about all our Warfare Center divisions and how you can better team with them. So please go by and pick one up at the end of this. So this graph illustrates the challenges we face, right? DoD 5000 is depicted by the blue line of the chart. It sets out a deliberate, low-cost approach, low-risk approach to acquisition that doesn't really meet today's Navy's needs. It was purely evolutionary in nature. The gray line, more revolutionary, where we open our systems to allow incorporation of more technology from industry, is helping, but it's still not fast enough. Today, we need to find ways to make the red line a reality. We need to accelerate our adoption of capabilities with tools that are available to all of us collectively. We're investing in model-based systems engineering, virtualization, improved modeling and simulation tools, and live virtual construct to accelerate technology development, evaluation, and training of our fleet. I think the Navy recognizes that there have been issues transitioning 6.4 demonstration capabilities into the fleet programs. They've studied the problem. There's been a couple of studies on 6.4 and where the money has gone. And they've requested new authorities through Congress to help streamline that approach and put some money aside so that we can start to do these transitions more rapidly into the programs of record. Congress has responded by providing new authorities to help streamline acquisition progress. FY16 and 17 National Defense Authorization Acts provided two new authorities, Section 804 mid-tier acquisition and Section 806 weapon systems component prototype programs, which offer alternative pathways to get technology out. I think if you summed it up, if you haven't read it, it really allows the PM to start looking at what they need for their program, not a prescribed everything in DoD must have a checkbox at the end of it. The Navy has responded as well, right? You heard Mr. Gertz earlier this week. He's pushing down decision-making to the SysComs and the PEOs to accelerate timelines and opting for strategic discussions versus checking people's homework. Established of the Maritime Accelerated Capabilities Office, or MACO, which puts senior oversight on our programs to remove barriers, has been established. And the large displacement UUV, the snakehead torpedo UUV here at Newport, is an example of that program. Rapid prototyping and experimentation demonstrations, or RPED, is another example of a single material solution is not identified where experimentation and prototype are needed to help identify the right solution. We're involved with those program offices to try to bring that to fruition much quicker. And we're using some of our 219 or internal investment money to seed those things. So again, if we could team with you on your IRAD, I think it'd be a great opportunity to move some of those things into the fleet quicker. We're also collaborating with our contracts folks at Nswc headquarters to use rapid technology insertion acquisition plans. This speed to fleet initiative is achieved through rapid contracting, which synchronizes the timing of technology assessments with the procurement process. It's a pretty complex slide. I didn't bring it because, quite frankly, I couldn't explain it to you all. But the goal is to really start the contracts process much earlier as we're assessing the technologies that you all have developed to try to bring down that timeline. And we have had a couple of successes, one at Newport and one at Dahlgren so far, in just reducing the timelines. So DASNS has approved also several Section 233 initiatives, which are internal for the warfare centers, to provide the division additional contracting flexibilities. We have more authorities now at Division Newport and our other divisions than we had before. We can reduce the time for J&As, different MOPAS reviews. They're all done locally, or more of them are done locally, up to, I think, $93 million is the right number. so we can turn that contracting circle a little faster than we've been doing. And we're starting to see progress. We don't have a lot of runtime on those, but we are seeing some reduction. I guess one of our biggest enablers that you've all heard of is the other transaction authorities. As many of you know, the OTA for Undersea Technology and Maritime System is well underway, and we're hoping to have 8 contracts awarded by 30 September. As you may have heard this past Monday, we have another 25 projects ready to go. The OTA agreements, to me, allow us to talk to you much earlier in the process, right? We put out requirements, you come back and tell us, is that a doable do, or do we need the entire national budget to achieve those goals? I think that's something that's been missing in our relationship and partnering agreements. So I'm excited about this to see how it works, and we'll see how this first round goes. Within the NAVSEA Warfare Centers, you'll see 2 additional OTAs with the consortiums come out. And that was down from 7 we had planned, as folks have started to tell us that it's too expensive to join 7 different consortiums. Would really like to focus that down. So we have 2, one in surface warfare that'll be coming out of Dahlgren, and then one out of Crane that'll be electronic warfare and trusted electronics. So you'll see those coming out in the next couple of months. And then you can use other forms of OTAs that don't have consortiums if you're looking for a specific small group of technologies or companies that you want to do business with. So you'll see those come out as well. And if you're interested in learning more about the OTAs, Tom Carroll, is Tommy here? There he is. He's the guy to talk to. He can provide you much more information on that from the government perspective. So I just said we have a lot of initiative. It's ongoing, but I ask for your patience, right? The Navy's kind of like an aircraft carrier. It takes a while to get it turned, a long time to get it turned. But once you get it turned, it usually makes some good forward momentum. So please be patient with us as we come through some of these things. But either way, we need to ensure that from any reference point, our community and the defense industry starts going faster than our peer competitors. It can only be accomplished, again, through collaboration with you. And events like this where we start to share and learn about each other, what each other's capabilities are, and how we can better use them for the Navy. You'll also, obviously, with Antex, we're going to actually see some hardware in the water and see how that works, and you'll get some feedback on your systems. Hopefully it'll be beneficial feedback from your systems. And then we will provide that assessment up to our leadership to see how they want to use that information as we go. Since the first Antex several years ago here at Newport, many other warfare centers and divisions have had Antex. There's been, SPAWAR has had a long engagement with the Marine Corps. Dahlgren has had their first, and they're going to have another one here on architecture of the future combat systems. Crane has had electronic warfare one. They started a little smaller. They're going to grow in events. And then Panama City last year had a collaborative effort with Newport at the same time, so that was good. I've been talking a long time. Okay. So last year's Antex had a couple of success stories that I wanted to talk about. 2 in particular because they included non-traditional partners. One was from the oil and gas industry. A uniform fleet evaluator from CINMOC was on the pier for last year's event. They saw the event, they saw the technology. They've taken that and they're trying that down at their Antex event. They think it has great value and may become part of CINMOC's tools to provide the Navy what it needs in oceanography. So that's kind of exactly why we do these Antex. So promising technologies can be seen. Those that meet mission needs can be further experimented with, and hopefully leading to hands-on evaluation by the operators and then adoption into programs of record. The second you may remember from Antex 2017 were small Rhode Island business, Power Dogs Blue, successfully demonstrating its floating power grid. I know a lot of the sailors were interested in that as well. They're back this year partnering with Teledyne Marine in an exercise that will start with the Teledyne Ocean Sciences Z-Boat, autonomous surface vessel launching from Power Dock's autonomous power microgrid platform. Wow, that's a mouthful. But Antex is not the only way to work with us. Most of the warfare centers have innovation cells where they work with Navy, government, and non-government entities to to explore and nurture innovative ideas, concept tools, and deliver innovation to the fleet. All of these divisions, as I said, have technology partnership offices. And as I said, Newport, it's Mary Sylvia, so please, again, talk to her. And please use her as a first contact. If you're having problems working with the Warfare Center, she is the person to go to in the organization. And then when I look at Newport and the Rhode Island area, right, the regional hub is readily progressing and producing results. The National Institute for Undersea Vehicle Technology, partnership among NUIC, EB, URI, UConn, and others in helping shape the future technology and future workforce. We're also collaborating with the War College, Woods Hole, Sea Ahead, and UMass Dartmouth. We're signing creatives and establishing communities of interest and communities of practice, as again, collaboration is critical if we're going to meet Navy's needs. So in conclusion, I know you're all happy about that part. So am I. I think I've said collaboration more than I've ever said collaboration in my life. The more we can partner, I'll say it again, and the more we can bring the innovation ideas faster to the Navy, the better we're going to be. If you're seeing us as a barrier, and I do mean that, if you're seeing us as a barrier, the Warfare Centers, you need to come talk to me so I can understand that, right? We're trying to break down barriers. If we're throwing up barriers in your way, then we're not doing our jobs. And ultimately, the concept of communicate, collaborate, innovate, demonstrate is critical to our combined success. On the Navy side, we'll continue to create and leverage venues and opportunities for you to do these things. I truly believe that the innovation cells, the OTAs, and the Antex are central to this effort. Next slide. So as most of you are aware, over the next 2 days, we'll be conducting Antex events here at Newport that are linked to other spots around the country. We'll kick it off at 1:30 with the full schedule of events here at the Marriott. Again, I want to thank Mulling and the SENEDIA folks for teaming with us and bringing the community together to solve Navy problems. Hopefully I've said partner, collaboration, and teaming enough so you all understand where I'm coming from. And if my team is not doing that, then you need to come talk to me. For 2018 Antex, we have 55 government, industry, and academic partners partnering in 30 different technology exercises that also include 4 artificial intelligence systems. So if you're not already planning to participate, I encourage you to do so. And with that, I will take any questions you may have and probably defer them to smarter people in the room. That's my prerogative. So thank you all, and I hope you enjoy the Antex event. I will take any questions except from Paul Mankowski, because I know his questions have no answers. You guys are really going to be nice to me? Or did I just bore you to sleep and you're all asleep? I promise I will not talk about collaboration, partnerships, next year, if you invite me back. I'll talk about technology instead. Oh, didn't I exclude you as well? Okay.
Are there any concerns about protecting intellectual property rights and all the collaboration that you described? Which is essential. How do you balance that with intellectual property?
Yeah, I think that's always the hard question, so thanks for asking that right off front. Softball first would have been nice, but look, this is tough, right? It's tough for the Navy, right? I've been in the government for 33 years now. I want all of the intellectual property, right? I just do. That's not the Navy's policy. That's not a workable solution for everybody, right? So I think the open architecture approach to many of the things we're doing, whether it's the ARCI APB, whether it's the Snakehead UUV, to allow you to own that intellectual property in the box that you bring, and I'm just using box as a thing, is key, right? We want you to be able to plug into our backbone, and I'm going to use the word backbone, and be able to retain that, right? I also want to do that so that the next time I need to improve that part of the box, I can go out and compete that, right? So that's kind of the balance that I always have. So it's hard if you bring the whole vehicle and the Navy has to buy the whole vehicle. I have not thought through all that. If it's a throwaway, maybe that's okay. If it's a big Navy platform thing, that gets a lot more difficult for us to noodle through and figure out how to allow us to compete in the future while you retain your intellectual property. So I'm going to tap dance if you ask me another question on that, because that's about all I can go for. But it is a tough thing, and we recognize that, right? And we're trying our way through that. SBIR is another great topic, right? SBIRs come in, they have intellectual property rights, and we have to maintain those as we go forward. Again, it's easier if it's a box, much harder if it's a whole system. So if you have some good ideas, I am willing to listen to that on how we address that for long term, because it does become a cost concern in the long term. But like I said, if you bring the intellectual property, it's yours, right? We need to figure out how to fit it into our systems and how to utilize that so you maintain those rights. So. Did I screw that up, Moises? Always good to have somebody here to tell me I'm screwing up. Really, that's it? I must have really bored you. No? All right, last time you guys didn't ask me questions, I started talking about diversity in the workforce. And I'll tell you, this is another hot topic with me, so hey, I'm going to talk for a while. All right? I will say in general, this looks like the bald or almost balding white men's club. I'm a charter member. So I ask you, you know, the I have to be careful what I say because sooner or later the lawyers will get me, but in general, right, when we're building teams within the Warfare Center, we want a diverse group of folks helping us with that team. I think that is the same for you, right? You've read the science, you've read success stories in the paper. It's kind of a fact, right? And we are not doing well enough bringing in a diverse workforce to help us solve this problem. I already know what the white guy with challenged hair opinion is on most things, right? I've been hearing it for 30 years. I want to hear some new opinions. So if you can all help us as you're doing your hiring, because we do hire for you guys sooner or later, right? We always take your best if we can get them. So self-serving, hey, I'm self-serving on this thing, I got it. But we do need to do that, right? We need to do that as an organization. I know many of your companies have agreements with HBCUs and historically black universities, right? And also universities in Puerto Rico. And we need to figure out how to bring more of those folks to this area. And I'm talking about Rhode Island in particular, right? Our diversity numbers are not what they need to be. I need you to help us on that journey to bring more folks in. As you're hiring, go out of your way to bring some folks from different areas in the country. I really got the Rhode Island thing down pretty good now. Vic helps me with that all the time. I know all the good places to eat in Rhode Island. And I know Massachusetts fairly well, so let's get some diversity in where people come from, diversity in how they think, and maybe we can make some more progress in thinking about things differently. We all know how to fix the things we've been working on for 30 years, right? We need some new folks to challenge us. So what's my next hot topic if you don't want to talk? Questions? Oh, you got one, all right.
Mr. McCormack, thank you for your remarks and your service. My name is Mark Rios. I work for Atlas North America. We're a U.S. wholly owned company, but our headquarters is in Germany. You talked about diversity, great topic. My sense in the recent trend here is that many unclassified documents, RFIs, et cetera, are now getting sent out distribution D, U.S. defense firms only, can't go to foreign defense firms. You know, I think with your whole concept about diversity is trying to cast a wider net for good ideas. But apparently that wide net doesn't extend across the boundaries of the United States, yet there are several European defense companies who I think might have some solutions to some of your problems. And this arc has been cut off. Is this the trend that's going to continue, or are there ways to work around this so that ultimately the U.S. Navy gets the best solutions to their challenges?
Yeah, look, I don't set policy for the nation or the Navy.
But you brought it up earlier today,
though.
No,
I got it. So there are foreign comparative test approaches to do that. If we see something that we think is worthwhile looking at, we'll do that. If you have some of those ideas, please bring them to us, and we'll take a look-see at them. As you know, there's trusted foreign companies and countries, and there's some that are not as trusted, mostly due to security concerns. I don't set those policies. We have to work within those policies. I think it's kind of interesting if you're a U.S. wholly owned company. I don't know what the rules are of you taking your parent company's technology and selling it to us. I just don't know that. So I'd be kind of curious on that if you want to talk about that.
The challenge is that information that comes out in an RFI, and we reach back to other scientists, engineers in Germany, they help us come up with a solution. We can't send that information to them, right? It has to stay in the United States.
Well, they should come live here then. Sorry. It's a smart ass. That's my Boston sarcasm, okay? Sorry. My wife has taught me to make sure I tell people that's sarcasm. Okay. But they really should. Okay. I really don't know. It's a great question. I don't know. I'm going to talk to Mary about how we can address that, to tell you the truth. It's a good question. I know that, Arun Sarafin, who's on the House or Senate staff, right, was with us this morning, and he's asked that question a couple of times about how do we get more foreign scientists and engineers involved in some of our things. And we've told them some approaches. We've had scientist exchange programs, mostly government to government, though, not industry to government. So I'm not sure about that one. I'm really not. It's a great question. We'll take a look-see at it and see what we can do. I was gonna give that one to Ron Veen, but he had a mouthful of food, so I figured I'd help him out on that one. Seriously? You want me to get off the stage?
No, sir, you took a long time to get here, so we appreciate it. Kim Bauman over here.
Oh, hi.
Good afternoon. Commander of the Rhode Island Air Guard. But I'm sitting at a joint table here. We have Navy, Air Force, Army, and we have our industry partners. We are all frustrated, and you mentioned some of it about contracting frustrations, the acquisition process. I don't see any good solutions out of anything that's been mentioned yet. The Defense Innovation Experiment, which is now DIU, all that is a different pot of money and some way to maybe more quickly purchase things that people have already been trying to implement for a long time. My personal solution would be to blow up the federal acquisition rules and start from scratch. But
You know the tape in this, right?
I just want to see a good solution, sir.
I think, have you talked to Tom about our OTA process and just take a look at it and see what you think about that, right? Because I think it will speed the time to get some of these products that we need. I'm not talking big, if you need a Coast Guard card, right? It's going to take what it takes to do those things. But I think, for us, we've put a lot of metrics in the Warfare Center on our contracting timelines. We were about 540 days to get a contract out. We're down to about 365 days. Not evenly across all the Warfare Centers. I know, that sounds good, right? It's horrible to me. I think it should be 6 months or less. So we're working on that. We're looking at digitization of a lot of our paperwork that goes with that stuff. We're looking at standard statements of work. We're doing all of that, those kind of things. The big challenge for us, at least in the Warfare Centers, is getting the technical team together to come up with the requirements and then do the technical evaluations. That's by far the longest pole in the tent. And everybody blames contracts, and it's not contracts, it's really the technical community getting their act together. And I can say that because I own them all, so I'm going to say it. But I'm with you. There's not been any streamlined approach that I've seen that has a lot of runtime on it that has worked well, right? We're still battling the $10,000 purchase card approach, right? We got the authority, and you can't use it because there's still rules in place on how you use it, right? You got to split it up into two 5K buys and stuff. It's crazy. So the Navy is a big aircraft carrier, moving slowly. I don't know what your equivalent is. I hope some of those authorities are coming to your your organizations as well.
I will put in this plug for everybody in the room. The FARs do allow for a lot more than the contracting officials allow now, because we need a culture change, a huge culture change. There are a lot of areas in there where you are allowed to do the fast procurement, but because of the individuals who have grown up and they're not all bald, white dudes either. So, so there are a lot of culture changes we need to help with.
I think you're right. The 804 and 805 authorities there. The program managers who are in place now and the contracts people are people who have been trained on DoD 5000 and the old FAR clauses, right? They're just starting to go through the DAU classes now to get trained on the new systems. I think Newport just had folks come up and talk about some of these new authorities last week. So, we're all kind of learning these new authorities as they go. So, I don't know what to tell you. I'm with you, though. It'd be nice to start over and redesign the whole system.
Hi, Sean O'Connor with Northrop. Quick question, is the ANTX model is growing? Have you developed kind of metrics of success or goodness that so industry can look at and say, hey, here's where I want to go put money and time and effort into joining this?
Well, I'll tell you, we have rules of the road on how to run an ANTX. The metrics is hard to measure, right? We're using the ANTX and our internal investment money to do a couple things, right? The internal investment money is to do some basic research. It's to grow the workforce, right? Train the workforce. It's transition technologies, and then it's some lab revitalization kind of things. So for us, the metric is a little different on what we're doing. We're trying to make sure we're doing hands-on work and building a better team with industry. I think your metrics would be, what am I getting for my return on investment, right? Am I getting my products to the fleet? Are they getting into the hands of the warfighter and the acquisition folks to do that? One of the things I would say we could use your help with is when we're doing an ANTX event, talk to the folks that make some of those decisions to put pressure on them to come to these events, right? The first event we had N9 all the way down, all the N codes down, right? And we had the DAS and COM. It's hit or miss on how well we do on that, right? But your support in saying, hey, we're going to be at this event, we're going to be demonstrating our stuff, please come and take a look at it, also helps us in bringing in the right people. And those are the acquisition folks, right? From your perspective, I would think. So are we keeping hard and fast metrics? I would say not really right now, because again, our metrics are a little different than yours, but we can talk about those. We can go back through and look and see which ones we've had success in transitioning to programs of record if you want. But I'll just say, from the Warfare Center perspective, we serve today's Navy, the Navy after next, right? And then when we're doing the Navy after next stuff, which is what a lot of this stuff is, we're really trying to set a tone or what's possible for the Navy of the future, right? So a lot of unmanned stuff, a lot of network stuff, trying to get them to think about how they're going to use some of these things. So again, for us, it's, I'll say a little bit of education of our workforce, a little bit of education of the Navy on what could be done with this stuff.
Hey, Don, I just want to add to that.
George, I'm not answering this.
I just want to add to that real quick.
Yeah.
For this year's ANTX, we got a bunch of fleet representatives that are coming in that actually be going around, watching the different evolutions and kind of making an assessment as to which ones they think would be highest value to the Navy. So we're
returning that back to the industry folks.
Correct.
Yeah. As well as it'll get rolled up to op-nav staff folks. Yeah, George.
Yeah, I was going to, George Zavar, Newport, CENMOC. I was going to mention that, Ron beat me to the punch. I think we're having operational representatives coming in with questionnaires, going through the vendors, what went right, what went wrong. And I also believe that we're kind of aiming up the ante to the after action report. So I think we recognize that, I would like to say, and we're taking steps to remediate them. So I think you're going to see a beefier after action report this year.
Don Luna Palmer from Raytheon. You mentioned collaboration quite a bit, but you also mentioned AI and machine learning on the chart about the various countries. Given that it's traditionally going to be non-deterministic in what the machine learning is going to do, what kind of thought have you given to the type of testing you're going to look at? Because traditionally, DoD has been wanting to test things to the nth degree to ensure that we know all the paths. What kind of thinking are you giving to testing of AI ML?
I think this whole construct of live virtual construct and using virtualized machines to do a lot of that work I think is probably going to be the answer to that, because I'm not sure how else you could test some of this stuff, at least first in the lab, right? So within the NRD, which is the SPAWAR, NAVAIR, NAVSEA, and NRL rolled up into the Naval Research and Development enterprise, we're looking at connecting all of our labs together, right? That's kind of the first step. And this whole security thing gets in the way, right? Marie Boussier has been helping me with that to make sure we have these things connected up front. And then we're starting to do some different experimentations on how we can show the value of this thing, to do just what you're talking about. How do we try these things out in a non-threatening way to platforms, right? I can't really turn a bunch of things loose with AI going on it yet. Although, the Navy has a lot of things that are pretty close to AI. I think they just don't realize it sometimes, right? You turn Aegis on auto, and it's kind of going to do its thing, right? So AI, a lot of people think it's some magical thing. To me, it's still a bunch of algorithms that have been learned over time and improved over time. It's machine learning in mass quantities, whatever you want to call it, at its best. So I think that's where we're at least going to go, because we haven't figured another way to do it, right? So. Okay. Can I sit down?
SENEDIA coins. Thank you so much for your continued support of SENEDIA. For that, I have a SENEDIA coin. I'm going to pose for it.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
There you go. You hold it. And congratulations in advance for Antex 18. I'm sure it's going to be a great show. And as always, thank you for leading one of our nation's most valuable assets, our warfare center.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks, Don.